I want to tell the folks here a little bit about Jim before I hand over the microphone. As you can see, Jim might have faced some challenges when he came to Green River Community College and beyond. 1981 was an interesting time. For me, I lived in the Boston area, and every year we would go and we would watch the Boston Marathon come running through our town in that crisp spring day on Patriots Day. And when I met Jim recently, I learned that one of those people that I was watching, not just in those masses and the throngs, but actually leading the way in those early 80s was Jim Martinson, being a world-class wheelchair athlete. And that's pretty amazing to me, and I feel so honored to be able to introduce him here tonight and to see how that connection, and to see the connection with Peter and that Sumner High School, and this is what Green River does. So with that, I'm going to introduce Jim, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks, Peter. Well, I'm back. I'm back to this school. I guess the stage wasn't here, but I used to sit out there just like the rest of you folks, and it was so great. But just before I get started, if I don't roll off the stage here, just before I get started, I would like to say something that's kind of unique, because in the front row is Dick Barkley and John Anderson. And in 1968, I had come back from Vietnam, and I was laying in Madigan Hospital, and my football coaches, my two football coaches, came out and took care of me. They talked to me. They said, "Jim, you're going to be all right." And you know, we're celebrating Veterans Day tomorrow. And I just want you guys to remember that. I'm so appreciative of the fact that people today care about our soldiers coming home. They say thanks. We were just in the Auburn parade for the veterans last weekend, and what a cool time, man. There was this, it's the largest parade this side of the Mississippi, Veterans Parade. And you know, if it wasn't for the freedom of the veterans that fight for us and all you people that out here care, guess where we would be? We wouldn't have the freedoms of colleges and schools and the gifts that we have. But that's not why you're here to hear me, because I like to talk about my little stay at Green River Community College. I had no clue what I wanted to do after I came back from Vietnam. I was 6 foot, actually 5'11 3/4, never quite made it. I was 180 pounds. But when I weighed myself, when those two coaches came out to see me 3 months after I was out of bed, I weighed 114 pounds. I lost 7,200 cc's of blood over those 6 days that I was unconscious. I was wounded on June 29th by a bouncing Betty landmine. It popped out of the ground, it flew up about waist height, and blew me through the air. I looked down, my right leg was gone, my right finger was gone, and 4 of my friends were killed during that time, and 12 were wounded. It just looked back at that moment in my life, and I had no clue. Look how young so many of you are out here. What if tomorrow morning you woke up and something was missing, a body part of yours was missing? I didn't know what to do, but nobody ever gave up on me. Nobody gave up on me. They hung in there. My coaches, my mom, my dad, my brothers, all the athletes that I played with. And we just lived in this little town of Sumner. The year before, my friend Joe Moen was killed, and he graduated 1 year before I did. And he was killed in Vietnam that year when I was playing football. And I look back at all the people, and I knew that I had to do something different with my life. I didn't want everybody to look out there and say, "Oh man, look at the poor guy without any legs. Oh, I feel so sorry for him. What can we do for him?" I wanted to do whatever I could do in this world. And I lived a long life, and I could talk about a lot of things: winning the Boston Marathon, winning the downhill in the '92 Olympics, going in the '84 Los Angeles Olympics in Los Angeles, California, with Carl Lewis and Urbano Holyfield and all the other greats that I could tell you about. I was there. I lived in that. That's nothing. But when I came to this college, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I wasn't a very good student, so that had to start over. They took me under their wing, and they worked with me. They never gave up. I couldn't hardly read. but I graduated from Sumner High School. I struggled in all of the crazy areas of school, but I came back and I said, I am going to be a student. I went 2 years here, went to 2 years at Multnomah School of the Bible, and came back, and I was so excited about what I learned here. You guys, I can't even imagine. I would never talk in front of 20 people. I had the best speech teacher in the whole world at this school. He was great. And I would stand in front of thousands. I stood in front of the Billy Graham Crusade. Do you realize how many thousands of people? Yeah, it was great. I had my artificial legs on that day. My knees wouldn't shake because they were, plastic. But it was incredible. And I went on and I studied the business administration here at school. And I never forget my one teacher, and is so embedded. He said, if anybody uses the word cheap, you have to put 50 cents. Now, 50 cents in the 60s is quite a bit of money. We could get quite a bit of gas for 50 cents. And I remember learning that you use the word inexpensive, not cheap. I started a company. We built it from scratch. My first year, I did all the performance, went to the bank, took all the things I learned here at this school, took it to the bank, and the bank looked at me and said, who would ever want to buy sporting equipment with disabilities? They laughed at us. I went home and I had to take my VA compensation check and take the house that I had purchased and put it in collateral, and I started a company. The first year in my business, right in Puyallup, Washington, we did $37,000 in products. We sold 37,000. When I sold the company, and that was in 1981, or 81. And when I sold the company to Sunrise Medical in 92, we had 2.5 million wheelchairs, hand cycles, racing chairs, quad rugby chairs, tennis chairs. We invented the monoski. When you see those guys skiing down the hill in those little things with shocks underneath, that was our product. Oh, it was incredible. I loved it. People would line up. They'd come from all over the United States, all over the world, to our little shop in Kent, Washington at that point. I loved it when the Japanese would come, because the dollar and the Japanese dollar was so strong, they would buy every single product I had. It was incredible. It was the most fantastic thing. I would go to Japan to do an Oita Marathon. The first year I went, there was 3 shadow wheelchairs at the Oita Marathon. The last year that I went there, every single chair, 600 shadow wheelchairs were in that Oita Marathon. There's 600 to 800 wheelchairs do that race every single year. It was so fun. And I'm telling you, if it hadn't been for this college, it hadn't been for the government to stand behind me and say, hey, Jim, you lost your legs. What do you want to do? They opened the door. They paid for my schooling. They gave me an education. And I'm here to tell you, it works. Never give up on this country. Never give up on our soldiers. Never give up on yourself. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Just whatever happens, think of Jim Martinson and you can do it. Thanks.